Nishida is on. We have been waiting for her report. When we had the long-term care, the long-term care strategy program, when we put together the parts of it that Caroline now is taking forward with the long-term care plan. One of the major problem areas or need areas was for our direct workforce. And we had very little data. We knew there was a problem, but how to put that together in a way that we could go forward and see whether in phases and how we could support the development of a really strong direct workforce for our kupuna. And it still is a need, but I think that with Dr. Nishida's study and recommendations, I hope that that will turn into some recommendations, if legislation or if funding, that the Kupuna Caucus can look at and see how we might take it further. So without taking more of the time and giving it all to Christy. Christy, you want to proceed with your report and findings, recommendations?
Yes.
Aloha, and thank
Absolutely.
you. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you very much for that context. And I'm also joined today by Kendi Ho, who's also with the Center on Aging. So she and I will both be reporting on this strategic plan on strengthening the direct care workforce. And I want to thank other members of our team at COA who also helped with putting this together, including Kevin Kawamoto, Whitney Katsutani, and Tyron Terada. So this is a cover of our strategic plan, and just FYI, you can find this on our website under the projects section, and we can put a link to that too as well. And I think for context, the way I'll start is that, we all know that direct care workers are the backbone of our long-term care system. And when we say direct care workers, they include nursing assistants, nurse aides, home health aides, personal care aides, and they provide, a lot of the paid hands-on long-term care that's provided to older adults, persons with disabilities, and also those with chronic medical conditions. And so Hawaii, much like the rest of the nation, is facing, a lot of challenges in terms of its capacity to provide long-term care. And so we developed this strategic plan recently under contract with Executive Office on Aging. And we were guided by this vision that we want to have an ample, dedicated, and well-trained direct care workforce that's providing person-centered and quality care across not only institutional, but community settings. And so we really would like to see a system that strengthens recruitment and retention and pathways for our long-term care system and adequately develop our workforce. So next, I'm going to turn it over to Kendi to provide a bit more about the context and what we know now.
Yeah, so thank you, everybody. So it's pretty much preaching to the choir, but we'll quickly just look at what's happening with our Kupuna population as well as the direct care workforce. So Hawaii's unprecedented older population parallels the nation's population shift with 1/5 of the population 65 and older, and expected increases as Hawaii leads the nation in highest life expectancy with an average of 80.7 years. At the same time, direct care workers are also retiring and leaving an already workforce with a lot of high turnover. According to the Healthcare Association Hawaii's 2022 report on the number of openings, there has been a large increase in openings in their memberships, nurse aides and personal care assistants from 2019 to 2022. And these numbers while they're high, are most likely underrepresented as it does not account for direct care workers outside of HAH's membership. So this underscores the need for a more comprehensive measure to determine what is the real need in Hawaii, which is what Senator Moriwaki alluded to. Next slide. So if we're looking uh, at what we did in the strategic plan, we did an environmental scan in 2024 to 2025 and examined current efforts in Hawaii and the U.S. continent from consortiums like the Council of State Governments, CSG, which some of you have participated in, and other state consortiums like the National Governors Association and nonprofit organizations like PHI and AARP to provide direction to workforce development efforts. States were racing ahead with ARPA monies with innovative programs to meet the needs of their communities, but could these programs and strategies meet local challenges? Next slide. So in Hawaii, the workforce needs and strategies have been defined within areas of industry sector interests, but overall are aligned with attracting local students earlier and keeping them here with good jobs and better training. Here are just a sampling of continuing and new efforts in government with the Chamber of Commerce's recent action plan for all businesses to thrive and the upcoming announcement of the Workforce North Star for Hawaii. More specifically in healthcare, Doctors Wen and Masaki lead the federally funded geriatric workforce enhancement program. And more recently, UH President Hensel announced that workforce development for career readiness will be one of the 4 pillars in UH's strategic plan. Missing piece in broader workforce initiatives, as seen here, is a dedicated focus on long-term care workforce.
Yeah, so given
Next.
this context, there's a lot of different initiatives on the national level, as well as interest and energy on the state and local level. So our charge was to take this all in and see what would work here in Hawaii, specifically in the long-term care realm and the direct care workforce. In terms of our process, we took all the different strategies, we looked at what other states are doing, what's happening nationally, and to evaluate them for appropriateness here in Hawaii. So we looked at this 4 criteria of feasibility, appropriateness, effectiveness, and sustainability in Hawaii. So when we put forth our recommendations in the strategic plan, these 4 criteria were considered when we put forth our recommendations. And so I'll turn it back over to Kendi.
So to guide kind of this process that Christy talked about, we had an advisory board of stakeholders, as you can see from this slide, kind of a broad range of stakeholders for our 9-member advisory board. And they were invited to guide our process to select strategies for strengthening the direct care workforce. We met 4 times in 7 months to confirm what was emerging with our scan of national and state policies and practices, as well as what was emerging for our key informant interviews. So in the next slide, you'll see there again a broad range of folks who are informing us in terms of the criteria that Christy mentioned. And so we have 20 key informants spanning government agencies, clinical care, home health and home care agencies, and the education sector that supplied the career-ready workers for the long-term care continuum. The major themes from our key informants confirmed directions from what we saw from the scan of policies from other states and our state, as well as recommendations from our advisory board.
Okay. Okay, yeah, so we certainly had wonderful experts and key informants who were guiding our work to help us take a look at those different strategies from other states and nationally and figure out what would work here in Hawaii. And as a result of that, we categorize things in 6 areas. So in the report, if you're able to take a look, we really bucketed our recommendations into these 6 areas. So number one, we have recommendations relating to improving recruitment of new workers, retention of current workers, developing these workers with professional development and standardized core competencies, creating career pathways and lattices. And then also through the process, we recognized the lack of data, the lack of statewide data to get a true sense of what's happening here on the ground, but then also a lack of evaluation also to determine what strategies work, like which recruitment strategies work, what retention strategies work. We know it's challenging to evaluate that, but there is a lack of evaluation that indicates what works. And then lastly, we have an area related to raising public awareness and societal value of direct care workers in general, because we feel like that kind of work will also support direct care worker satisfaction and retention if there's a larger awareness and value of the work that they do. So these are the 6 areas in our plan where you will find recommendations and action steps in our plan. And I just wanted to give you like a little sampling of what you might find with some of our recommendations. So in the recruitment section, you'll see things like wanting to generate interest among students at younger ages, particularly, within the DOE when students start their career awareness and exploration in middle school. In addition to students, we also have a recommendation around diversifying our recruitment pool. The report acknowledges potential to recruit former family caregivers, as well as folks from other countries to provide direct care work here in Hawaii. And of course, we know that the need for a living wage here in Hawaii is critical. So there are recommendations related to not only living wage, but also the benefits that can be provided to direct care workers. Here's some examples of retention recommendations as well, because we know that there's a lot of turnover. So an example of a recommendation is looking at our organizational culture where these direct care workers work and elevating their role within those agencies and promote more of a team-based approach where direct care workers have a voice in patient care. And we also have recommendations around the use of assistive technology and other types of innovation to support direct care worker safety, but also efficiency too. So this is just a sampling, and you'll find, again, our full report on the website where these recommendations are broken down a little bit more into specific action steps and partnerships and resources that are needed. But for now, I want to turn it over to Kendi because there's a lot of recommendations in our plan, but we are very clear that we wanted to start somewhere and soon. And so here are some of the things that we intend to take action on in the short term. Kendi?
Thanks, Christy. So yeah, as you've heard, it's a lot of moving parts, and those moving parts are happening at all, sort of different places. And so what we found was a common theme across states was having persistent coordination of workforce development efforts at different arenas, such as in policy. We hope to revisit the resolution that Representative Takayama and Senator Moriwaki introduced for EOA to partner with COA to create a workforce intermediary for long-term direct care workers. Persistent effort is also needed to expand current efforts statewide. For example, Center on Aging has led teacher externships to different healthcare work sites, but current partnership with Hawaii Workforce Pipeline expands this to potentially 93 schools in the Honolulu district. Student work-based learning could be strengthened by adding micro-credentialing, which could be issued by Center on Aging. Other efforts to build the data infrastructure includes examining if we have enough workers completing their training through education. So looking at the supply side, are these is the education sector providing enough supply for the employer demand? And finally, as the state awakens to the workforce shortage across industries, there needs to be a consistent voice to remind policymakers about caring for older adults in our facilities, in community-based organizations, and in homes. So the next slide is asking about how can you support workforce development efforts? So you could advance that
Sorry,
slide.
Kendi. I don't know why it's
That's
not
okay.
advancing.
So,
Oh, here we go. Back. Here we go. Slow. There we go.
all right. So we urgently need partners in advocacy in the next legislative session. Also, mentoring students and giving work-based learning opportunities like job shadowing. You could add to the growing list of 21st century competencies for caring for older adults for future standardization. Finally, your organization could participate or coordinate surveying direct care workers in the community. With all of us working together, we could achieve the long-term care we want to see in our communities.
Yeah, thanks, Kendi. Um, Yeah, I think that there's a lot of recommendations in the plan, a lot of good things. I feel good about the process that we went through very comprehensively to come up with these lists of recommendations. And we're pretty clear about the short-term things that we can do now by leveraging existing funds, and that we can get going on those things that were on the previous slide. But we're happy to entertain any questions or feedback.
Well, thank you, Christy and Kendi, and EOA. I think it's really good to have in one report in one place what you folks have done because it's all over the place. And so, it's very difficult to know where we are. So thank you for pulling this all together and having your 6 buckets goals is helpful, whether it's recruitment or retention or, data analysis or gathering and analysis. And so that at least it points to where we might, I wouldn't say attack, but where we might focus, on the low-hanging fruit first and then phase it in. But in terms of your advisory group, it seems that you have the education sector, the healthcare sector, and the various linchpins, I guess, to each of these 6 areas. And was there any discussion how they might take this forward in their networks to see where are the low-hanging fruit that, some things may need funding, some things may need just coordination, because we did fund a lot of internship monies to Department of Labor and the Workforce Development Council, also working on with Bennett, working on looking at where we could place people in jobs that are related to the training so that we're not training people and there are no jobs. So I don't know whether you have any insights or have done some of the work with some of your members on your advisory board, but that would seem to be helpful for us to know where should we attack first, in terms of the upcoming session.
I would say even after this report was completed, we continue to have meetings with key stakeholders. So we're continually on top of, different efforts and things. And so not only with HAH, but with Caroline and KCC, so that, we're very clear on what those next steps and opportunities to partner are and the best way that we can collaborate. So that's ongoing. And I think our more recent conversations since the report has been completed has really shaped some of those that understanding of what we can do in the short term in terms of data and surveying. And we've been also meeting with, like, for example, the for Nursing, and knowing how we can mirror some of their efforts at data collection, so we get a better sense of the situation in the state. And we also talked to HAH about data collection. And then more recently, the workforce person at the University of Hawaii, to understand some more recent strategies that we can undertake. But I'll let Kendi
One,
add.
one
Yeah.
department that I don't see here on your advisory board, but certainly you can do some more contacts, is the medical school, because we just funded two faculty positions for Alzheimer's and dementia at the medical school. And I know they are looking at long-term care of their um, uh, geriatrics program. So I think that, pulling them in, they've got resources, and I'm looking at where there are resources that you can pull in to build your critical mass, so to speak, to build upon it and see, okay, where are the gaps that you can come to us maybe for some funding.
Yeah, I think that's a good point because I think everybody's like moving forward in different areas, but kind of separately. And there's again, there's not a coordination of efforts. And so, yeah, I do remember having the two new faculty. They're going to develop curriculum at JABSOM to include more content for older adults. But I think that's looking at more of the professional side of it. And so direct care workers are not considered as, professional nurses. They're more paraprofessionals, which is why the Hawaii Center for Nursing, they don't have a sampling of how many of the, statewide, who are the personal care assistants and nurse aides because they're not considered as professional nurses. But that is an important piece of it because direct care workers do work with the medical team, but there's a lack of that sort of coordination. And so, Senator Moriwaki, I know you mentioned what about internships? So, I would say that, home health agencies and home care agencies may not have the capacity to have interns, um, as discussed, like for paid internships. But for smaller, across, if we're looking statewide and across the continuum of care, for folks who may not have the capacity for paid internships, they could do something like micro internships and micro credentialing, where folks could do things like job shadowing, or they could have experience communicating with older adults and see, is that something that I want to do? Is that something that I could continue to do? And they could build on their skills in terms of, showing that they can communicate with older adults with compassion, or that they can help with, different activities of daily living. So there's different aspects that could build up to internships depending on the capacity of the institution.
I just want to open it up to, I'm going to look at the chat, whether anyone has questions, can raise your hand, or the react button that I'm just learning how to use too. So anyone with questions, I think it's very, very good, comprehensive report. And I think, how do we take it forward? And maybe some recommendations or questions you might have of Christy or Candy on what might be the next steps for you. And I'm just going to check this out here.
I mean, I also want to go back to what you were saying about the Geriatric Workforce Enhancement Program and the legislation that was just passed. I mean, yeah, it's critical for us. We have a good relationship with GWEP, and also partnering closely with the Hawaii Dementia Initiative and Tani Salazar's efforts, because within Hawaii Dementia Initiative, there's also a workforce focus, and making sure that our workforce is dementia capable. And so there are a lot of similar efforts going on. So I do think there needs to be, coordination. So appreciate working with Tani and the GWET folks so that there is no duplication.
Yeah, I think the Center on Aging is sort of at the middle of all of this, would be a terrific coordinating group for collecting data and analyzing it and coming up with recommendations, maybe with a little broader advisory council as you see whether it's recruitment, retention, or home care or community care versus institutional care. And I don't know, you don't want it too big that it gets out of hand, but and maybe not on the advisory council, but some way in which you can connect up with all these different sectors so that we have a comprehensive view. Because I think even from our perspective of looking at, one of the big needs is not having housing. So when you look at, I'm looking at between assisted care, which is also everybody's hurting, right? Institutional care, assisted care, adult health, adult daycare. But there's also independent living where individuals they don't have all of their activities of daily living in control, but there's nobody to check in on them and wrap around services to provide supportive care. And that's where your direct care workers come into play a lot more, because they can give the person-centered care. And how much, I don't know, maybe there's a different mix of competencies that could be part of the direct care workforce that might not be there now, and we just think of them as pretty custodial. But how do you gradually increase the responsibilities and the training for attracting people to have a long-term career, even at the personal care level, direct care level? And I don't know if that was in the mix of discussion, but I'm having to think different ways in which we provide that service in a caring way and a person-centered way. And we don't have that maybe now. So like, how do you look for the future and then get people excited about, oh yeah, I don't mind doing it if it's that, versus I don't want to do this. I can't stay here without the low pay and so forth. But I mean, I'm just throwing things out because nobody's raising their hand yet.
Oh, Kathy's got her hand up.
Okay, Kathy. All right.
Thank you. I just wanted to tell you about a new trend that I'm seeing, and I'm very excited about it. But I've got a CNA school, and I've been contacted by so far just 2 or 3 long-term care facilities. They're doing the Earn and Learn program, so they're hiring them and they're orienting them to the company, and then send them to me for 4 weeks for the class, and then they go back and start working. So I think that is a new trend for me anyway, and I think I'm excited about that. So that'll help a little bit.
So Kathy, also in terms of adult care, I mean, you have the community facilities where you help people in the community. Are you seeing any differences in your employees, or their interests, or having problems in recruitment or retention? What might, because that to me is where we really should be focusing on, because that's the most cost-effective way of giving care.
Well, I hate to brag, but I don't have a problem with my staff. They've a lot of them been with me for 7 and 8 years. I just, for some reason, I attract angels and they stay with me. And
so why is that? Why is that?
Why is that?
Yeah.
Well, I do things a little bit differently than the corporate facilities. I do more for I think I do more for my staff. And
so it's not necessarily the salary. I mean, because we're looking at, okay.
No, it's not the salary.
So I think those are important components, though, that should be in the mix of what Christy and Kendi are doing. Is what is that attracts and retains staff for this really important role at the where the salary might not be as great as, going into professional role, but it's important. And I think those kinds of things should also be in their reporting. So we start training other people employers to do that,
Well, I've gotten a lot of comments from my staff that they just love working with the Kupuna. And if I hire somebody new, they need to let me know that they love working with Kupuna, so that it's a good mix for us. They'll love their jobs, and it's just happy.
That's important. And how do you make them happy, right? I mean, part of it is they want to do that kind of work, but we don't have everybody in the world wanting to do that kind of work. So what is that mix? And I think trying to get what you're learning and sharing that is as important for this reporting that we get. Is what are the kinds of things we need to look at beyond just salary.
Yeah, I think that's the big question, finding the people with the right heart for working with Kupuna and would not leave if they can make $1 more at the hotels or at Amazon. And I think that's the big question. What other supports are needed too? Like you were saying, wraparound supports earlier, other benefits, support for professional development. Kendi put in the chat, we also talked about in the report, like the organizational culture, which I suspect, Kathy, you create a wonderful, supportive environment for your workers too. Like all those things play a role, I think.
So one of the things, and I'm just, because we're just chatting here, and anybody else, please jump in, but because I think that you talked about getting the high school kids, or getting them younger to see, and you just touched on something, Christy, is you have to have the heart for it. You have to really enjoy doing it. That we don't have, when you're in high school, they give you this assessment. What do you like to what do you want to be when you grow up, or what are, where are your interests? We don't have that kind of assessment tool, or giving them experiences so that they could develop that, because you don't just have it, you developed it because of your experience, because your mentor, or you work with your grandma, or you have to have experiences that you put together as part of your character, or part of what your heart, as you're calling it, but what you really would like to be, or what you see rewarding in your career. But I don't know if there's anything like that. I'm sure people have done research in it, but it'd be good to kind of ferret out that stuff too, because it's, how do you match? We always say match a job with the person, right?
Well, I guess that's where we're trying to go for the Center on Aging, to be that workforce intermediary. We have some good examples of being that intermediary between, for the health academies, the high school health academies, helping them with the match to, let's say, Arcadia, which has been a wonderful recent partner for me, to match up, these opportunities to the students, and make sure that students have like long-term care opportunities, not just hospital settings, for example. And so the intermediary is where that matching happens. And another example of what we're doing with HAH, and thanks so much to them, is when their students go through their nurse aid training, we have some modules that the students take up front. And it goes through empathy, and we talk about personal connections that they have, older relatives in their own lives, and what kind of care that they want to have. Because I always find it surprising going into the classroom, the high school classroom, and how many of them know people in their 80s and 90s and hundreds in their family. And we talk about what an honor that is to know someone of that age. And 100 years ago, that wasn't possible. And so what kind of care do you want your loved ones to have? And so we try to talk about all these things and relate it to their personal life, to their family, so they can make that connection. And then also bring in active agers into the classroom too, because I think too often when you go down the healthcare road, the people that you encounter who are older are frail or have some form of cognitive impairment. So I would like to change their mindsets on aging before they go down that healthcare training so that they can think about this person and what value, what can we learn from them? What in their life history is inspiring, to have that kind of perspective before, because they see that person as they are now, again, who might have, impairments and things, but to have that level of appreciation, and have positive intergenerational experiences with an active ager before they continue on in their training.
No, that's great. Yeah, I don't know if some of these students that come out of HPH or any of the Jana's program, whether they are evaluated or given evaluation of what they experienced and what was rewarding about the experience to get at some of the soft issues, that we don't usually get at, right? So we do the hard stuff. Do you know the technical stuff of the job or whatever? But that's where you start getting at the heart, the empathy and all of that for working in this field. Because the first thing is just getting them wanting to work in the field, and then subject matter comes later.
I mean, we do an evaluation, a pre-post with the students, but again, nothing longitudinal, nothing, so that speaks again to the need for better evaluation to see what works and if this kind of approach works and to attract students. Yeah.
But good. No, this is a great start and really appreciate your doing this. I know it's lots of work, pulling together all the different, it's a comprehensive view, so it really does help. We say there's a problem, but until we have data and we have the kinds of things that you folks did, we really can't put anything around it to say we're going to do something. So it's all anecdotal, and I think it's starting to look at where is it recruitment, retention, where's the low-hanging fruit, and then build on that. And are we increasing our workforce? Now, I don't know if you've connected with Bennett Misalucha, but she was helping us for a while on the long-term care strategy. She is running a program now that's pretty extensive and committed with the chamber, that you might want to touch bases with her to get the long-term care. The healthcare is one of their pillars, I guess, to get that connection in with I know she knows because she was helping us with the long-term care, the strategy. But to connect there, because I think being in that mix opens doors to a lot more resources and employers. Because they're looking at, okay, we train them, we have interns, but are there jobs? So we have jobs, but how do we train them to connect? Yeah.
I think Candy can speak to that. Yeah, she has been in close contact.
Yeah, I've participated in Bennett's Workforce Development Council synergy meetings.
Yeah.
From the beginning through the end. So, so they did have different pillars, as you mentioned, Senator, and they are continued collaboration with stakeholders to have sort of a North Star that the governor is going to announce. And I touched upon that briefly in the presentation because we got to wait for the governor to announce it. But basically the idea is,
You folks are included in the North Star or whatever.
Well, it's more general for the whole state, and so that sort of will be, the guiding, that we're going all in the same direction, and so the expectation is different agencies will align with that. And because I've been part of those discussions, I feel pretty confident that our strategic plan very much aligns to, what the conversations have been about, and a nice piece of that is one of the pillars is about funding. So, yeah, I feel pretty confident that we're aligned with that, and that the state is sort of bringing people that are working separately, like silos, and sort of bringing everyone together. So there's no duplication, but they have more coordination.
Are there any other questions? Thank you. Are there any other questions, Christy or Kendi? Caroline, you were involved in the advisory council. Are you there, Caroline?
I am.
You
Hey,
have
Senator.
any comments or, what?
I'm just very grateful for all the work because really, when we were going down the road of working on the report for the last legislative session, and as we continue to grow the long-term care plan, my focus was initially we had the 4 domains, but really workforce, all those other pieces wouldn't get addressed if we didn't address workforce. So I'm really happy and thankful for all the work that Christy and Kendi have done around this. So, and I love we met very recently and I love the recommendations and where we're going. And I saw so much opportunities for where some of that credentialing could take us into the future and stuff. So excited for that because, that we can help to move long-term services and supports with a growing workforce. So I'm just grateful for that.
I think so. I know we have some legislators on. I see Representative Motto, Representative Olds. I don't know if they have any comments or questions, because I think it's really important that we keep the momentum going, but is momentum going where with what, And I don't know if there's some interest or concerns that are really like low-hanging fruit that we really need to be addressing, and this would be a foundational piece. If your advisory council can start working on something like that to bring forward, that would be helpful. I know Kendi mentioned funding and what legislative kinds of proposals there might be. But I think we would look to your advisory council and EOA or PABIA to bring forward some of this by November and December as we go forward with Kupuna Caucus, the sooner, especially if it's money, which is going to be tight, what that might be, if not the whole thing, at least what you might need to start doing some of either the data collection, data analysis, or assessment of programs that already exist. It would be very helpful to have from your group, and from, I would say, the Center on Aging would be your sort of your think tank group for EOA and PABIA, but I'm not putting words in your mouth, but the work that they do and the data they collect and analyze, come up with actual recommendations, that's the next step.
Well, I will say the next steps, I mean, we will need funding and resources down the road, but for the next steps that we presented today, we're not waiting on. We're moving on all those things.
Great.
The data on the supply side.
Move it, then you see a challenge or something where you do need help. I think that would be where,
Yeah.
come forward.
Yes, we will.
Okay, we did all of this, and here's what we need next. That would be helpful. Yeah. Does anybody else have anything more to ask of? Thank you so much, Christy and Kendi, for all your work, and continuing to go forward. This is a really important area and much needed and lacking right now. So we really appreciate what you're doing. I don't see anybody else with questions, so you're off the hook. But thank you so much. Really, really appreciate.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator, for the opportunity.
Thank you. Okay, so we are getting close to the end of our program then. We have some time left, but the next meeting will be September. What happened to my agenda? Sorry. I lost mine. Okay, September 5th. And if you have, I think we have some people lined up, but if you have anybody else who might be want to present to us, please let us know. And Christy, if you folks found anybody doing something that we might want to know, like sort of your next step might be in this area, you might want to have us ask them to present to us. I think that would also be good because then we keep the momentum going in the training area. Yeah. Okay. And so I think that is it for the meeting, unless there are any announcements. Anyone with announcements? I don't see anything. No questions, no questions. Everybody appreciates your reporting. So thank you. So with that, I think if there's nothing else, no other business, I'm going to close this meeting and wish you all a good weekend. And we'll see you on September 5th, next Friday. Aloha, everybody. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.